Hello, family. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. Again, this is Eugene from Kenya, Eugene from Africa. You are whatever you want to call me. So today, one of the topics that I don't like talking about, but these are things which are happening in our society, especially in Africa. We have increased rates of femicide. My Kenyan country is recording high rates of femicide. 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, 1 month ago, these things have always been happening. So makes me address this issue to my fellow African members. I don't like talking about these topics, but for what is happening in the society, sometimes it forces us to talk about these things. And I know this is when we'll agree, when we'll disagree about some issues, but at the end of the day, better make your point, I make my point, and then we come somewhere in the middle and negotiate some balance. But one love, one people, and make your comments as kind as possible. So I want us to watch this video, and I'll let you be the judges after it.
So me and my friend just had an interesting conversation about how abuse is normalized in African households. In African households, you can go to your friend and tell them that you got whipped with a belt, with a chair. One of my friends told me they got hit with an iron. And this is all normalized. It's something that we laugh over. But if you actually look into a lot of African households, there's a lot of abusive traits that happen in these households that have been completely normalized. The objects that we get hit with in African households, if we was to tell the authorities, we would send them straight to jail. Emotional abuse, the way that we're constantly gaslighted in African households. Even the fact that when a lot of us start working, we now have to be giving our money to them, they're controlling our money, and we don't get a chance to really control our own money because they're controlling it all for us. And I feel like the only time it really affects us properly is when we grow up, because then a lot of us don't know how to control our emotions. Because in African households, if we was to show any slight emotions, we'll be beaten, we'll be shouted abuse at. A lot of us don't know how to react in confrontational situations. A lot of us act too much in confrontational situations. Like, there's so many ways that it affects us in our adult life. But because we don't look at the treatment of African households as abuse, we tend to just skip over it and just believe that we're just like this because we are. But there's so many abusive things that happen in African households that people just don't like to talk about.
African marriage side by side a Western marriage, it is obvious the African marriage looks more like slavery, or what I call conjugal abuse. And it is unfortunate this has not been looked into at any point in time. But most times it is mistaken for what Bible calls marriage in the Bible. The lordship in the Bible simply means ownership, because it is part of you. And Bible clearly states how you need to love your wife just as you love yourself. So African marriage is far from the Bible, very far. The first reason for that is this: scriptural marriage does not have any room for slavery that is visible in African marriage. And that is why it is almost impossible to point any marriage in Africa that you can say it is a good marriage or successful marriage. The ones we all mistaken for good ones in the past, we came to see that the women were just under suppression. They never had a voice. They could not express their feelings. They died with their ideas, and it was all men's affairs. And that is why it is just natural for even a little boy to grow up to become a tyrant in marriage. The first reason I want us to understand in African marriage is that the men are never prepared for marriage. All preparation made around marriage is to prepare the woman for abuse or slavery. And that's why they keep preaching different tolerance, different patience that Bible spelled out to African women. So by default, an African boy is grown with the mindset that is going to put a woman in the house when he gets married. Think about that. Not that he is joined to his wife, as the Bible says. And that's why many religious leaders have bad marriage. Very reputable religious leaders. So the boy grows up becoming a tyrant in the marriage. Any little thing he abuses, he curses, he threatens with divorce or sending the lady back to her parents' home. So African marriage is nothing but emotional abuse, psychological abuse, so close to slavery. Consented slavery. On the other hand, you can see the women enduring because they were prepared. Unintentionally though, you see, when parents keep telling daughters, is that the kind of food you are going to prepare for your husband? Is that the way you're going to tidy your house? Is that the way you're going to do when you get married? Those things were preparing the girl child for marriage. But nothing was done to prepare the boy child. So we need to change that mindset. It's a wrong mindset. Women are not sold into slavery. Men are meant to detach from their parents and join their wife, and they both become one flesh.
Just to get a bit more context to what it is that I'm about to say, I need you to please can watch the lady's video. But she basically speaks about the fact that she had asked why it is that South African men do not necessarily date outside of South Africa. And most of them responded with the fact that they said that they love South African women, they love the traditions, the cultures, and they want to preserve that. But I wanted to add to what it is that the lady had said based on my own observation compared to a lot of other, I'm going to say international men, men globally or men from different nationalities, is the fact that South African men are actually very well mannered. And South African men actually respect women a lot. And I'm going to accredit this to probably our traditions and our cultures. Now, with that being said, I think then comes the question, then why is it that South Africa has such a high femicide, GBV, etc. rate in South Africa? And my personal opinion would be that it comes down to finances. Our economy plays a major role in the amount of pressure that men get to experience on a daily basis. And because of that, these men find themselves with their back against the walls trying to provide for their families, but do not necessarily have the opportunities nor the financial means to give them what it is that they would want to give them. And I remember a few months ago, I had posed the question where we were speaking about, I can't even remember what we were speaking about, relationships and men and how it is that women choose men. And a gentleman responded and he said that it's not because they do not want to, it's because they can't. And he actually went on and said that as a South African man, you would want to do the best for his girlfriend/wife and provide and give her everything that she wants. But unfortunately, he has not been afforded the opportunity to do so. And yet he works hard and he puts in the work every single day. So yeah, I just wanted to add to that because I have noticed this and I've had conversations with a lot of my friends and my family. And the one thing that we have picked up is that South African men, for the most part, are actually very well mannered and very respectful, but have a lot of pressure. They are under a lot of pressure to provide. They're under a lot of pressure, especially in a society where you have these BE boys and you have the slave queen generation, and men do not necessarily know what to do, and they find themselves with their back against the walls.
So guys, do you think that African marriage is slavery? Do you think that African marriage has been weaponized to diminish women? Okay, let's compare the 19th century marriage and the 21st century. I find that in the 21st century, there is a shift in power dynamics when it comes to what women does and what men does, and we have women empowerment, we have feminists here and there, which is a good thing, so do we feel like the same issue is happening in the 21st century? And if it's not happening in the 21st century, why are we having many gender-based violence? Why are we still having many femicide cases? Because these are things which are happening in our country, in Africa in general, not even in our country, Kenya. So guys, I just want you to be the judges. I don't want to say much about this, but I would love to hear what you're saying, to be the judges. What does religion say about marriage? What does the Constitution say about marriage? If it is colonization that brought about these things which are happening for us today. But universally, or there is something that I don't agree with. One, I don't agree with forced marriage or arranged marriage, because these are the things which makes marriage look like a slavery. You have the freedom as an African lady to marry or love who you are. It is sad that even today most African parents force their children or force their women, their daughters, to marry some people that they don't want to. Number two, we have this initiation, or do we call female genital mutilation, which is happening in Africa. Some communities, not all communities, some communities still does this to their women, and it is a bad thing. Also, we having cases of femicide today in Kenya, my country, and one of it we're trying to look at what causes these issues. Why are we having increased femicide cases in our country, Kenya, today? So, upon looking up those things, you'll find that there is an intersectionality between the cases which are rising today and generally marriage being viewed as a slavery. Does this makes women so resentful? Was it institutionalized to weaponize men against women? Guys, tell me what you think in the comment section. I don't like to say much about these topics because I want to share with you and also share with you these clips, and then let's meet in the comment section and discuss something about it. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.